Ladies and gentlemen, let me ask you a question. How many of you are trying to build wealth without first building yourself? See, this is the trap most people fall into. They chase money without realizing money is not the foundation. You are the foundation. If you build wealth before you build yourself, that wealth won't last. But if you build yourself first, your character, your mindset, your skills, then wealth doesn't just come, it stays, it multiplies, and it blesses generations. You can't expect wealth to grow beyond the size of your mindset. That's why some people win the lottery and go broke within 5 years. It wasn't the lack of money that ruined them. It was the lack of a mindset big enough to sustain it. Imagine pouring a gallon of water into a container that can only hold a pint. The excess doesn't stay. It spills out, it's wasted, and it disappears. That's exactly what happens when wealth shows up in the life of someone whose thinking is still limited. Money will always shrink back to the boundaries of the mind that holds it. Here's the truth that most people don't want to hear. You don't have a money problem, you have a mindset problem. And until you confront that, no amount of income will fix your outcome. See, wealth is not first an external reality, it is an internal capacity. If your capacity is small, your results will be small. But when you grow your thinking, you grow your capacity to attract, manage, and multiply wealth. Now let me ask you, how big is your vision? Because wealth responds to vision. If your vision is to just get by, your money will reflect that. If your vision is survival, your bank account will live in survival mode. But if your vision is impact, if your vision is expansion, if your vision is to create something bigger than yourself, then wealth will begin to align itself with that level of thinking. The reason most people are broke is not because they are not working hard. It's because they are thinking small. They are building a life based on limitations instead of possibilities. And here's the hook. Money is obedient. It obeys your mind. If you think small, it will show up small. If you think big, it will show up big. That's why the first real investment you should ever make is not in stocks, not in real estate, not in crypto. The first investment is in your own expansion. You have to stretch your mindset to fit the wealth you desire. Otherwise, when money comes, it will come and go like water slipping through your fingers. Think about the people who started with nothing but ended up building empires. Did they suddenly stumble across money? No. They built themselves into people who could attract and manage it. They expanded their vision. They expanded their knowledge. And they expanded their faith. Wealth showed up because their mindset was ready to receive it. On the other hand, think about those who came into sudden wealth. Athletes who got multi-million dollar contracts, celebrities who made millions, lottery winners who hit it big. Why do so many of them end up broke? Because their external wealth grew faster than their internal wealth. Their mindset was still at pint size while their bank account was at gallon size, and eventually the account adjusted down to the mindset. So if you really want wealth, you've got to stop asking, how do I get more money? And start asking, how do I grow my mind big enough to handle more money? Because money doesn't answer the call of need, it answers the call of capacity. The marketplace doesn't reward desperation, it rewards value. And value is a product of growth, your growth. Here's the powerful shift. Instead of saying, I can't afford it, start asking, how can I create it? That one change in language expands your capacity instantly. Instead of thinking like a consumer who only sees expenses, you begin thinking like a producer who sees opportunities. That's the difference between small-minded living and wealth-minded living. Wealthy people don't shrink their dreams to fit their bank account. They expand their mindset to grow their bank account. Your wealth will never outgrow your mindset. So the question is, how much are you willing to expand? How far are you willing to stretch your thinking, your faith, your discipline, your vision? Because if you stretch your wealth will stretch with you. And if you refuse to grow, don't be surprised when your money refuses to stay. Character is the foundation upon which every form of lasting wealth is built. Without character, money becomes unstable, destructive, and temporary. Think about it. If you hand a fortune to someone without discipline, integrity, or vision, that fortune will not last long. But when you put money into the hands of someone with solid character, someone who has trained themselves in honesty, perseverance, and responsibility, that money doesn't just last, it multiplies. The truth is, wealth is not sustained by luck or chance. Wealth is sustained by character, because character governs how you earn, how you spend, how you save, and how you invest. Here's the hook. Money reveals who you are, it doesn't hide it. If you are careless when you have little, you will be careless when you have much. If you cut corners when you're broke, you'll cut bigger corners when you're rich. That's why building character before building cash is essential. Money amplifies behavior. If your behavior is rooted in selfishness, greed, or deceit, wealth will expose it to the world. But if your behavior is grounded in discipline, faith, and integrity, then wealth becomes a magnifier of greatness. Look around and you'll see examples everywhere. How many celebrities and athletes have you watched rise to the top with millions, only to crash back down into bankruptcy, scandal, or destruction? They had the money, but not the character. On the other hand, how many business leaders and entrepreneurs do you see building sustainable empires that last generations? It's not because they were smarter or luckier. It's because their character created a foundation strong enough to hold the weight of wealth. Wealth without character is like a mansion built on sand, impressive for a moment, but destined to collapse when the storm comes. Wealth tests you more than poverty ever will. Poverty will test your resilience, but wealth will test your integrity. When you have more than enough, when nobody is forcing you to be disciplined, when you have the freedom to make choices without financial pressure, that's when the truth of your character shows up. Will you stay humble? Will you stay generous? Will you stay responsible? Or will you let wealth corrupt your values? That's why building character first is non-negotiable. Let me give you the real truth. People think money will give them freedom, but money without character creates bondage. It creates the bondage of greed, the slavery of debt, the trap of pride. But when character comes first, money becomes a servant, not a master. With character, you control your wealth instead of your wealth controlling you. With character, money works for your vision instead of money dictating your vision. So how do you build character before cash? You build it in the small things. You keep your word even when nobody is watching. You honor your commitments even when they inconvenience you. You practice discipline when it would be easier to be lazy. You tell the truth when lying would be more profitable. Every small choice to operate in character builds the strength you need to manage greater responsibility later. If you can't be faithful over little, why would life or God entrust you with much? Here's another hook. Your wealth will never rise higher than your character. If your character is shallow, your wealth will eventually sink. If your character is strong, your wealth will have room to grow. This is why people who chase money without first becoming the kind of person who can steward money always end up in cycles of gain and loss. They build empires that crumble because the foundation wasn't strong enough. But those who focus on character can build wealth slowly, steadily, and sustainably, and it will stand the test of time. Money comes and goes, but character endures. Build character before you build cash, because character is the soil in which wealth takes root. If the soil is toxic, the seed of money will die. But if the soil is rich with integrity, faith, discipline, and vision, then the seed of money will grow into abundance, not just for you, but for generations to come. Desire alone has never created wealth, and it never will. Everyone wants to be wealthy. Everyone desires financial freedom, but wanting wealth is not the same as attracting it. The marketplace does not respond to desire, it responds to value. And value is created by skill. Skills are the magnet that draw wealth into your life. When you build your skill set, when you refine your abilities, when you develop excellence in your craft, money begins to flow toward you, because the world is always willing to pay for competence, for mastery, for solutions. Desire without skill is like a car without fuel. It might look impressive, but it won't take you anywhere. Here's the hook. Money follows mastery, not wishes. You can pray for wealth, you can hope for wealth, you can even chase after wealth. But if you haven't developed the skills that make you valuable, the wealth will pass you by. People don't get paid for what they want. They get paid for the problems they solve. If you want more money, solve bigger problems. If you want consistent money, solve problems consistently. That's why you can't afford to sit around just desiring wealth while neglecting the hard work of becoming skilled. Think about the difference between someone who earns minimum wage and someone who earns millions. It's not desire. Both of them want more money. The difference is that one has developed skills the marketplace deems common, while the other has developed skills the marketplace deems rare and valuable. The brain surgeon isn't paid millions because he desires wealth more than the janitor. He's paid because his skill set is rare, life-changing, and highly valuable. That same principle applies in every arena of life. The higher your skill level, the higher your earning potential. But here's where people get trapped. They mistake activity for skill development. Just because you've been busy for 10 years doesn't mean you've gotten better. 10 years of repetition without growth only makes you experienced at staying the same. Skill development requires intentional practice, focused learning, and the humility to be taught. It's not enough to work hard. You have to work smart by working on yourself. Every hour you invest in learning, sharpening, and stretching your skill set is an investment that pays compound interest in wealth later. Another hook. Wealthy people don't chase paychecks, they chase proficiency. They understand that when they master their skills, money will find them. You don't have to beg for opportunities when you are excellent. Opportunities hunt for you. Excellence is magnetic. The world is starving for people who can deliver at a high level, consistently and reliably. The person who builds those skills becomes unstoppable because money is simply the reward for the value you bring. Consider this, skills are transferable. Once you learn discipline in one area, you can apply it in another. Once you master communication, you can influence, sell, and lead. Once you develop financial literacy, you can multiply your resources. Each new skill you acquire increases your leverage in the marketplace. That's why you should never stop learning, never stop practicing, never stop sharpening your edge. Wealth doesn't come to the person who knows everything. It comes to the person who is always willing to grow. The tragedy is that most people stop building skills after school. They graduate, get a job, and settle into a cycle of repetition. But the world is evolving, industries are shifting, and opportunities are moving. If you don't grow your skills, you get left behind. On the other hand, if you constantly upgrade your skills, you become future-proof. No matter what changes, your value increases, and wealth will always find its way to value. Skills attract wealth faster than desires ever could. A desire is invisible, but a skill is tangible. Desire says, I wish. Skill says, I can. Desire waits for the door to open. Skill builds the door, builds the key, and walks straight in. Desire dreams of opportunities. Skill creates opportunities. That is why every moment you spend building yourself through skills is a step closer to the wealth you desire. Discipline is the invisible bridge that carries you from where you are to where you want to be. Everybody talks about destiny. Everybody dreams about success, but very few are willing to pay the price of discipline. And that's why so many dreams never leave the realm of imagination. Success doesn't belong to the person who wants it most. It belongs to the person who is disciplined enough to build it step by step. Every act of discipline is like laying a brick, and each brick brings you closer to the bridge that leads to your destiny. Without discipline, you can see the destination but never arrive there. Here's the hook. Discipline is the difference between intention and manifestation. You can intend to be successful. You can intend to build wealth. You can intend to change your life. But until you develop discipline, those intentions remain empty promises to yourself. Discipline turns wishful thinking into measurable results. It's the daily choice to do what needs to be done, even when you don't feel like doing it. And the truth is, feelings are overrated. Winners are not led by feelings. They are led by principles. They show up when it's inconvenient. They work when it's uncomfortable, and they stay consistent when others quit. That is the secret ingredient separating those who dream from those who achieve. Look at any great achievement in history, any person you admire, any empire that has stood the test of time. It was discipline that sustained it. Talent may give you a head start, but discipline is what keeps you in the race. Inspiration might light the fire, but discipline keeps the fire burning when motivation fades. This is why discipline is greater than motivation. Motivation is a spark, but discipline is the fuel. Without fuel, the spark dies out quickly. Most people fail not because they lack ability, but because they lack consistency. They work hard for a week and then quit. They start a plan with excitement, but give up when it gets hard. Discipline is not about intensity for a short burst. It's about consistency over the long haul. Wealth does not come to those who sprint. It comes to those who build habits brick by brick, day by day. The person who saves a little consistently will outpace the person who saves a lot occasionally. The person who practices their craft daily will surpass the one who practices only when they feel inspired. Discipline compounds, and compounding is the secret of all lasting success. Here's another hook. Discipline is freedom. That sounds backwards to most people, but it's true. Lack of discipline looks like freedom in the moment, but it leads to bondage later. Eat anything you want without discipline, and later you'll be trapped by sickness. Spend money recklessly without discipline, and later you'll be trapped by debt. But practice discipline, and you unlock real freedom. You have the health to live fully, the wealth to choose freely, and the strength to keep building. Discipline may feel restrictive in the short term, but it's liberating in the long term. Ask yourself, what bridges am I building through discipline today? Because every small act compounds into your destiny. Waking up early, studying when no one is watching, controlling your spending, practicing your skills, saying no to distractions. These are not small things. These are bricks of destiny. Each one matters. You may not see the bridge forming immediately, but over time, you'll look back and realize discipline carried you farther than talent ever could. Discipline is not glamorous, but it is powerful. Nobody claps for you when you choose to wake up at 5 a.m. to work on your craft. Nobody praises you for saving when everyone else is spending. Nobody notices when you say no to instant gratification. But years later, when you're standing in a place most people only dream of, the results will speak so loudly that no applause will be necessary. Discipline is the bridge, and if you commit to walking across it daily, it will deliver you into the life you were designed to live. Money has never changed anyone. It only reveals who they already were. That's why you can't afford to believe the lie that wealth will suddenly make you a different person. If you are wise before you have money, wealth will magnify that wisdom. If you are foolish when you are broke, wealth will magnify that foolishness. Money is a magnifier, not a transformer. It amplifies the person behind the bank account. This is why building yourself before building wealth is non-negotiable. Because when the money comes, it will shine a spotlight on your strengths or expose your weaknesses. Here's the hook. Money doesn't fix problems, it multiplies them. If you are undisciplined with $100, you will be even more undisciplined with 100,000. If you are careless with a small paycheck, you'll be reckless with a big one. That's why people who come into sudden wealth without preparation often lose it faster than they gained it. Lottery winners, athletes, entertainers, you've seen it over and over. They go from riches to ruin, not because money was the problem, but because money magnified their lack of preparation. Think of money like a mirror. It reflects the truth of who you are. If you look in the mirror and don't like what you see, it's not the mirror's fault. It's the reality staring back at you. Wealth works the same way. If you have discipline, integrity, generosity, and vision, money will magnify those traits and allow you to impact more people. If you have greed, pride, irresponsibility, and short-sightedness, money will magnify those too, and the consequences will be even greater. This is why wealth without wisdom is dangerous. Imagine handing a child a sharp sword. The sword is powerful, but in untrained hands, it's destructive. Money works the same way. In the hands of someone with wisdom and character, it can build schools, create jobs, and change lives. In the hands of someone careless, it can destroy families, ruin futures, and enslave people in debt. The sword isn't evil, the user determines the outcome. Another hook, money is not the destination, it is the amplifier. That means the real work is not in chasing the money, but in shaping the person you are becoming. Because when you grow, your wealth will grow with you. When you become wiser, wealth magnifies wisdom. When you become disciplined, wealth magnifies discipline. When you become generous, wealth magnifies generosity. And the opposite is true. If you refuse to grow, if you refuse to change, if you refuse to build yourself, then wealth will simply magnify your flaws. So the question you should be asking is not, how do I get more money? The real question is, who am I becoming with the money I already have? If you can't manage a little, you won't manage much. If you can't honor a small paycheck, you won't honor a large one. Wealth doesn't erase bad habits. It magnifies them. It doesn't eliminate weaknesses, it exposes them. The preparation you put in before wealth is what determines how wealth will treat you once it arrives. History is full of examples of people who let money magnify their weaknesses. Power, greed, and pride destroyed them because they thought money made them untouchable. but it's also full of examples of people who used money as a tool for good. They built communities, transformed industries, and left legacies because money magnified their strengths. Which story will you write? That's the real question. Money is a magnifier, and you are the message. The question is, when money amplifies your life, will it amplify greatness or will it amplify destruction? That answer lies not in the wealth you're chasing, but in the person you are becoming every single day. Luxury fades, but legacy endures. Too many people spend their lives chasing luxury, thinking that the cars, the clothes, the vacations, and the houses will define their success. But the truth is, luxury is temporary. It impresses people for a moment and then disappears with time. Legacy, on the other hand, outlives you. It speaks when you are no longer here. Legacy is wealth that's built on values, on wisdom, on principles that continue to echo for generations. If you only chase luxury, your wealth will die with you. But if you build legacy, your wealth will live beyond you. Here's the hook. Luxury shows people what you have, but legacy shows people who you are. Anyone can rent a car, buy a designer outfit, or flash some temporary success, but legacy is not rented or borrowed. Legacy is built brick by brick through choices, through discipline, through vision. And the most powerful thing about legacy is that it multiplies. Luxury is consumed, legacy is continued. Luxury disappears when the money runs out, but legacy continues even when you are gone. Think about it. How many wealthy people have lived and died, leaving behind nothing but memories of their possessions? Nobody talks about what car they drove. Nobody remembers what brand of clothes they wore. But people still talk about those who built legacies, individuals who created opportunities, transformed communities, and passed down principles that outlasted their time on earth. When your vision is bigger than luxury, your wealth becomes more than money. It becomes a message. Luxury can make you look successful, but legacy makes you truly significant. Success is measured by what you accumulate, but significance is measured by what you leave behind. This is the difference between living for the moment and living for the mission. The mission is bigger than you, bigger than your comfort, bigger than your image. The mission is about creating something that future generations can stand on. And when you align your life with mission instead of momentary luxury, you step into a level of wealth that is unshakable. Here's another hook. Luxury is about you, legacy is about others. Luxury ends when your story ends, but legacy begins when your story ends. Luxury benefits your lifestyle, but legacy benefits lives. The wealth you build. When tied to your character, your faith, and your vision becomes a seed that grows trees of opportunity for people you may never even meet. That's the real power of wealth. It's not just to make your life better, but to make the world better because you lived. Ask yourself right now, are you building something that dies when you do, or something that continues after you're gone? Because the truth is, one day your car will rust, your clothes will go out of style, your house will be owned by someone else. But the values you instill in your children, the principles you practice in your business, the contributions you make to your community, those will remain. Luxury fades, but legacy is forever. When you shift your focus from luxury to legacy, even the way you handle money changes. You stop asking, what can I buy to look successful? And start asking, what can I build to be significant? You stop focusing on consuming wealth and start focusing on multiplying it. You begin to see money not as a tool for comfort, but as a tool for impact. And when you live like that, the wealth you build will not only sustain you, but it will empower others long after you're gone. Legacy outlives luxury, And that's the choice every person must make. Do you want to be remembered for what you had or for what you created? Do you want to leave behind things, or do you want to leave behind transformation? Because at the end of the day, people won't remember the brand on your clothes, but they will remember the impact of your life.